Here on the front of our Heartland Bighorn 37DB, we're going to be doing a technical walkthrough on our unit to go over the components and everything on it as far as how they operate, a few tips and tricks. If your unit differs a little bit with brand names or you want a deeper dive on these, you can find that information on our Great American RV YouTube channel under the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We're going to get started in the front. Here we have our 7-way plug that will of course plug into our truck towing our fifth wheel, and that will transfer all of our turn signals, lights, so on onto the camper while we're traveling. It will also provide us with a battery charge line that will feed off of the alternator of the truck and charge the battery while we're traveling down the road on the fifth wheel. We're lastly going to have that brake control line. It'll feed off of the brake controller, and when you hit your brakes, it will send that signal through this plug to apply the brakes on the trailer based on the output that you have set on that brake controller. Speaking of brakes, we're going to have our breakaway box right here on the side. You're going to have that silver cable coming off of it with a little loop on the end. That loop needs to be connected somewhere to your rails or something like that, not to the handle of the fifth wheel hitch head or anything. We want to make sure that if something happens, that head disconnects, this kingpin disconnects, that this cable stays with the truck and this pin actually pulls it out of that box. What that does is it activates the brakes on the trailer to bring it to a stop. That way it doesn't run over anything or anything like that. A little safety feature in there. But it's also not going to operate if we don't have a good 12-volt battery in our unit. So we need to be mindful of that. Make sure we have a good 12-volt operating battery in our trailer. Now, we also want to make sure that that pin stays into that box and that it's inserted properly in there. Otherwise, our brakes will be active, certainly when we don't want them to be. All right, so under our kingpin, we have that storage in the front. To the left of it, we have that toggle switch that operates our cap lights on the front. And if we open up our door, we have access to our battery storage down here. And if we notice, we'll have some resettable breakers. These resettable breakers reset on their own. They're heat operated. So if they get too hot from an over amperage, they'll trip out. So if you notice something not working in your unit, give it a few seconds and see if this kicks back on. These can go out over time. So you can test it with a 12-volt light tester or your meter and see if they are working. You just pull that red cap off and you'll see those prongs. Here we have our battery disconnects. These battery disconnects are for when you are storing your unit unplugged. So you have no power to your unit, you're not using it. Turn these off. That way you're conserving the amount of power in your battery. That way whenever you go back to run your jacks and stuff, when you're picking up your unit, you'll have some battery left in there. So one is going to operate that, which is the cable coming from there, and then the other one is actually going to operate your inverter system. Your inverter changes battery power, your 12-volt battery, it converts it into 110 power. So if you were somewhere and you were not plugged in, you were using your solar power or just your battery power, that solar power is going to charge your battery, and then the inverter is going to change that battery power into 110 power to be able to run small appliances like your TV and anything that you plug into those inverted outlets. Now obviously you can't run everything off of it. It's going to depend on the voltage on the wattage on your inverter, and of course how many batteries you have in here as far as how long it is going to last. Now this right here is a module for that inverter system. That's where your output comes through into 110 in order to go out to your control panel, your breaker panel, and run the appliances inside your unit. Now to the left here we have our hydraulic reservoir for our hydraulic slide outs, our jacks, any hydraulic components in here. Now this reservoir is going to have hydraulic fluid in it. You will need to check it, maintain, make sure you have a proper amount in there. But in order to do that, you want to make sure everything is retracted. So slide outs need to be retracted, all of your jacks need to be retracted, everything. That way all the fluid is in this tank, and then you're checking your level. You refill right here. We don't want to add fluid to it if we have something extended, because what's going to happen is, put that fluid in there and you retract everything, that fluid's going to build up and it's going to make a big mess in this compartment. So you don't want to do that. You do have two 250 amp fuses right here. One is for that battery disconnect, one's for your inverter system. And then the other one is a resettable 12-volt breaker right back here. That one is going to be for your jack system. So that one you can actually reset. If you ever see it tripped, you'll see that leg pushed out. So you can come here for your hydraulics and check that in the event that it's not working. On the driver's side of our unit, of course, we can see our slide outs. Our front slide out is going to be a cable driven slide. All the rest of our slide outs are going to be hydraulic. We have information on those slide outs in our HAPS Helpful Hacks playlist on that Great American RV YouTube channel on how to override, check 12 volts, so on and so forth if those systems aren't operating. Now in this front compartment here, we have one of our propane tanks. You're gonna have the same thing on the opposite side, and on one of the two sides, you'll have that dual propane regulator. On that dual propane regulator, it will have a selector switch to choose which propane tank you want to use as your primary. The indicator on there, either red or green, will indicate whether that tank is full or empty. Now, whatever one we have selected as primary, both of our tanks need to be on. That primary tank will be used first. If it runs dry, you'll get that red indicator and it will go over to that secondary tank immediately and start pulling from it. Now, if we want to see what that secondary tank level is at, we go ahead and flip that switch over to that one. Then we can get our primary refilled in the meantime. Now behind that, we have our pass-through storage that has our LCI leveling system on here. We do have hydraulic system on this particular unit. We're going to go over the operation of that now. Here we have our LCI electronic leveling system. This is for our leveling jacks on our unit. Kick it on, and right there on the screen we have our voltage. Voltage is very important on this system. If we don't have a good 12 volts, good battery, this system may not operate correctly. So keep that in mind if you have any faults or issues with the system or errors. Right off the back, when you enter this screen, you can manually go in and start operating your jacks. So when you kick it up and you want to operate just those front leveling jacks, you can just hold that button down. Orange indicator will indicate those are the jacks that are operating. You can also operate them left and right, and same thing if you retract, hold down that retract button and you can hold down the front button and it will drop down. That's only jacks that mode will operate. Right here we'll go into our arrows. This will be what gets you a little bit further. So auto hitch height is after you have auto leveled your unit. So let's say you disconnected from your truck, you went into auto level and you were done camping. You're going to hit that arrow, go into auto hitch height, press enter, and your unit is going to return to the same position you were in whenever you disconnected your truck or pretty close to it. So you can back right up to it and your hitch should line right up. Our next mode is our auto retract all. After we have hooked that hitch up, we're locked in and we're sure that that hitch has the kingpin and we're not going to cause that thing to come off or anything like that. We've checked everything. We can go ahead and hit enter, and this will retract all of our jacks on our unit to where we are ready to head to our next destination. Next mode is auto retract rear. This is only going to bring up the rear jacks and leave your front landing gears down. Our next mode is our manual level mode. So if we want to manually level our unit ourselves, we can hit enter, go into this manual mode, and it's going to tell us where our degree marks are as far as how off level we are. So this will change as you level your unit. Now you have control of all of your jacks, your front and your rear, and then you can adjust it left and right. And like I said, you can see those degree marks kind of change as you level out the unit. Once again, if we have gone too far, we need to retract a little bit. We hold down that retract button until it lights up, and then we can operate whatever ones we wish. Now, one thing that you'll notice is if we kick this unit off level, we can notice we now have a flashing light right here. This indicates that the front is low. So if we're doing that manual mode, it just makes it a little bit easier. We go ahead and hold that button down. We can also notice our degree mark is climbing right there, and obviously we've hit 0 here. Now we have an indicator that is green. That's letting us know that the unit is level. Same thing on the outsides here. We have more red lights that will indicate if those angles are unlevel. If we hit it one more time after that manual mode, that brings us to our regular ready screen. The other option is we disconnect from our truck and we go straight into auto level. We just hold that button down and then it's going to go through auto leveling your unit. It's important we don't walk around in our unit during that period. We let it go ahead and level out until it says complete, or you may see this screen right here should have a green light in the middle. If you have any errors, then you'll have to assess that through the troubleshooting. LCI has great literature on what to do. We also have some other videos that go through some steps on that as well. We can also hook to our Bluetooth if we download the LCI One Control app, and we'll look in our compartment door for our password and everything. Once we've downloaded the app, we'll have to insert our VIN number as well as more information on your unit, enter that password, and we can hook to our Bluetooth and operate it from our phone as well. We're also going to have our Lipper tire link system in here. If we want to upgrade and purchase the sensors for the tires, the monitor that plugs in there, the power is already ran for that system. We just go ahead and purchase that item to upgrade it so we can monitor those items while we're traveling down the road. Here we have our control center where we'll hook up our water and our fixtures for all of that. We do have a secondary black tank on this system. We'll go ahead and cover all the information on that control center. All right, so here we are in our control center. We have our spray port. We hook that coil quick connect in there. We'll have hot and cold water spray port accessible outside. We have our 3 ports right here. One is going to be for satellite. One is going to be for cable. Our cable would come from our park cable, obviously, and all these ports run to the inside of our unit everywhere we have a TV, including our exterior. Now here we have all of our connections for our city water, the different options for our knobs here. The white one right here, that is our city water connection. That's where we'll run the hose from the campsite, hook it up to provide water to the interior of our tank or fill our tanks. So we'll move to that. First off, we'll touch on city water. City water is just if you have that connection at the campground, we'll go ahead and turn our valves to that sequence right there, and that water will go straight to our faucets. If we are wanting to dry camp, the first thing we'll need to do is fill our tanks. So we'll go to power fill tank. Once again, we'll have a hose hooked up to a water bib to fill that, and we're changing our sequence to that, and this will begin to fill the tank on our unit. So we have that onboard storage for our fresh water. This is for if we are going to a campground or stopping anywhere on the road and we want water and we don't have a water source, we'll come and fill that tank, and then in order to use it, we'll turn to that dry camping sequence, turn those valves to that, and then we'll turn our water pump on, and it will pull from that tank and provide water to our system. Our next one is winterization. All right, so we'll turn those valves this way for winterization, and this is for when we want to winterize our unit for the winter time and protect our pipes. So we would first go to our low point drains, which we'll talk about the location of that a little bit later. We'll open up those low point drains, blow the water out of our system, turn our knobs to this, and we'll hook a hose from here and put it into a gallon of RV antifreeze. Now, it will take several gallons to fill this unit, so you do it one at a time. You turn that water pump on, and you open up all your fixtures in your unit until antifreeze comes out. You swap that jug out as needed. This changes that system up to pull from that antifreeze jug and fill that system. The last one is siphon sanitize via tank pump. Now that system is if you want to sanitize your tank system, basically same concept. You're pulling from here with a mixture of water and bleach into your system if you want to sanitize it, but it goes into your fresh tank. So as we were saying, this is our city water connection. That's where you'll hook that hose up. This one is our black tank flush. This is for when we are flushing out that sewage tank. That's where you'll hook your hose up here and kick that water on to flush that tank out. We'll go over a little bit more information on that when we get to our actual black tank dump valve. Past our pass-through bay, we have our Suburban tanked water heater right here with electric and LP operation, as well as our Suburban furnace right here that is going to be gas operated. We'll talk about the controls and how these work when we step on the inside. Behind me, we have our valves for our black tank and our gray tank system. Our output is going to be right there under the slide, that 4-inch connection we hook our hose to and go to our sewer outlet. Your valves for your gray tank are going to be on that pipe there, and your black tank is going to be through the frame. And in order to go ahead and dump that system, we're just going to go ahead and open the handles. Now your gray tank is going to be your shower water, sink water, stuff like that. We'll have multiple tanks on this system. The other valve set up for your rear bathroom is going to be on the back, and it is going to work the same way. Gray tank, shower, sinks, stuff like that is all going into that gray tank. If you have that sewer connection hooked up, then you can go ahead and leave that gray tank valve open all the time and let it drain out as needed. Now our black tank system, however, we need to keep that valve closed all the time. We're putting sewage in there from our toilet. We need to make sure that that valve is closed until we're ready to dump. So once again, we have that sewer connection hooked up, we pull that black tank valve and we allow that system to go ahead and drain out. Whenever we're ready, we hook up to one of our 2 black tank flushes on there and we turn that hose on, and there's a jet on the other side of that tank that's going to help push debris, anything that's left in there, out towards this valve system. Let that run for a little while, spray any debris out of there, and that would do a pretty good job. Now, if you want to go a step further, you can, but you have to be mindful. This is a pro tip, and you have to monitor your tanks. Manufacturers are not going to suggest to do this for the simple fact you can overflow your tanks into your unit. But if you're mindful of what you're doing, you hook that black tank flush up, turn the water on, close that black tank valve for 60 to 90 seconds, and then open it back up, and that will let some water build up in that tank, pick up some of that debris and help move it down, because that spray port, that black tank flush, isn't going to get everything out of that system. So just know that. But we have to monitor the tanks and how long we've been running that hose. Otherwise you can, here's your warning, you can overflow your tanks. So be very mindful. If you don't want to do it that way, absolutely don't do it. That's fine. When we are done, we have to close that black tank valve after we have shut off our black tank flush and everything. Shut that valve closed, go on the inside, hold down your toilet pedal, and put several gallons of water into that tank. We need to put fresh water in there because, once again, you're still going to have a little bit of debris in there. This will help slosh around while you're traveling down the road and clean that up. And we can also make sure that we put our chemicals in our tank through our toilet as well, so it can help sanitize and clean that system. Now we can notice on our mid slide on the driver's side, we do have that vent up top. That vent can be open and closed when we want to use that exhaust over our stovetop. We need to make sure it's open. When we want to store our unit, it's best to close it so no rodents or insects can build a nest. All right, on the back corner of the driver's side, of course, we have that other sewer outlet with our secondary gray and black tank on our system. That will cover our rear bathroom, and it will work the same as our front. We do have that second black tank flush in our control center. Here we have our 50 amp service plug. Easy, you put it in there, turn it to the right, lock it in. We do have that retainer ring on there. We want to tighten up to make sure that plug can't fall out. And then we go plug it into our power pole at the campground. We need to make sure our ACs are off before we hook this system up, so we're not causing any surges and to that AC system. On the rear of our unit, of course, we have entry to that back bathroom with our solid steps. We'll go over the operation of these steps when we cover our main entry door in the front. They'll have the same type. Up top, we have our Furrion backup camera system pre-wired on there, meaning we have power for it. We can go ahead and purchase that camera, add it up there so we can see behind us when we're backing up or traveling down the road. We also have our Lippert on-the-go ladder system. That's that bracket up in the top corner. That bracket is so we can purchase that telescopic ladder that can attach to there and be able to gain access to our roof. Now we need to gain access to our roof because we need to check our roof after trips, make sure no low-lying tree limbs or anything caught our rubber, tore it up, anything like that. We also need to wash our roof a couple times out of the year, and we need to check and maintain our sealants up there every 60 to 90 days. Around all of our vents and termination caps, we need to make sure we're checking that sealant so it doesn't allow any water entry. We also need to check the sealant around our doors, lights, windows, anything like that every 60 to 90 days as well for any opening, decaying, peeling. Clean it and reseal it to make sure we are maintaining our camper. On here, we're also going to have that receiver hitch on the bottom, not made for towing, just to add an extra basket or something on the back for storage. Now on our passenger side, our front compartment, we will have that secondary tank system for our LP right there. And behind me, we do have that pass-through bay. Gain access to that, and we have our solar controller right here that'll give us more information on that solar panel system. And we have our inverter on-off button. That's what we talked about in that front compartment. It will change 12-volt power to 110 power. If we are dry camping or anything, we want to utilize some of those 110 components. We turn that on. As long as we have good battery power, then we'll have enough power to invert for a while. We also have our GFCI protected plug there, as well as here. Those outlets are ground fault circuit interrupt protected. If we need to reset those because they're not working, we're going to go to that GFCI breaker or outlet on the interior. We'll cover later. And that is going to be in all our wet locations, our kitchens, our bathrooms, our outside. So be mindful if any of those outlets aren't working, that GFCI is where we're going to go to first. We also have that coax connection right here to be able to hook up an outdoor TV. Below our pass-through storage, we have our spare tire. We have the crank down there. We can go ahead and crank and allow that spare tire to come down if ever needed. On that passenger side, last slide out, of course, we have our outdoor kitchen. We have our travel latches that always need to be intact whenever we're traveling. We pull it out. We have a hose connection for our sink. Now this sink does not drain. We have to take this pan out and actually pour it out. So there's no drain for that sink. Keep that in mind. In order to fully extend this, pull it out. We do have another latch to make sure it doesn't roll in and out. And we're also going to have a propane line under here that we pull out. You're going to have that male connection on there. You're going to have that quick connect under our unit on the frame to where we can hook that up, and then we can operate our outdoor gas stovetop right here. Disconnect it. We go ahead and drop that down, and then we want to coil this hose back up and stick it up onto there, back into that compartment before we go to slide that back in so it doesn't get pinched. Release your travel latch, drop it back in. We'll put our other travel latches back on here to secure it while we're traveling, and then we can close our compartment. Our last compartment on the passenger side provides us with that outdoor refrigerator. Outdoor fridge is 110 operated, so anytime we're plugged in, this is going to be turning on. Does have a little freezer section in there, so we need to be mindful when we go to store our unit. We need to defrost this. Anytime we plug our unit in, it's turned on, there's going to be condensation, maybe a little freezing in there. We need to go ahead and defrost it, open it up, air it out, wipe it down, not only to reduce the option for mold and mildew in that fridge, but if any water drains out of this, it can damage our wood components around our refrigerator, and manufacturers aren't going to participate in that because it is owner maintenance to defrost our fridge properly after use. All right, our entry door is going to have some resistance when we open and close it. That's because we do have those friction controlled hinges on there, and that is to help the wind from slamming that door shut and causing any damage or hurt fingers, right? So we have our safety rail also on here. That safety rail, we can store it by just pushing up on that handle, pushing it back. You have a little pin that you insert right there to keep it latched. To pull it out, we're going to pull that pin out. We're going to drop it back in that other hole, pull it towards you until we can grab that in and extend it out. Lastly, we have our solid steps right here. Those solid steps can be stored by simply lifting them up. We have our blue latch right there on the side. That's going to go ahead and help keep it latched into the frame. We also need to make sure that our entry door right here is all the way open. That way the steps don't hit it, scratch it up, tear up the screen, anything like that. We'll bring that back down. We pull that blue latch, grab our handle, and drop them down to the ground. Now we need to make sure that our steps are level. After we auto level our unit, we next need to come over to our steps and level these out. We can do that by lifting them up. We can see this silver pin right here while we have it down on the ground. We push up on that pin and we can extend or retract those legs on the steps a little bit. Want to make sure these are level not only for the safety of entering your unit, but also we want to make sure that this entry door doesn't hit the frame of our steps, causing damage to the door or anything like that. We're also making sure that our threshold on there is down low enough to where our entry door won't get caught up or snagged, and it will close and seal properly while we're camping. All right, before we go inside, of course, we need to talk about our awning. Our awning is 12-volt powered, operated by the flip of a switch on the interior, and of course, we're gonna have our awning lights, same thing, 12-volt operated by a switch on the inside. Now, our awning provides us with a nice sunshade. We also need to be mindful that we have to pitch our awning either in the rear or the front to make sure any water runoff from our AC, light dew, light rain, anything like that can roll off of our awning. Real simple to do. We grab this handle right here, pull down, and anything can drain off of that awning. Now when we go to store our awning, we go ahead and push that back up, we can roll it back in. Now we need to be sure that any high wind, storms, anything like that, we go ahead and just roll that awning in. Don't take the chance of that awning ripping off. If we don't pitch it, that water can puddle on here. If it rains heavy, that water can still puddle on there and it will fall down, cause damage, risk safety, anything like that. you're leaving your camper for an extended period of time, roll that awning in. I promise you, you don't want the insurance claim. All right, so the first cabinet as we walk into our unit, we're gonna see our control center. This is where we can see our levels for our battery, our fresh tanks, gray tanks, any of those systems. We push a button, we'll see the lights light up and give us the level meter of those items. Down here we have our tank heater here and here. This is going to be a 12-volt mat that is attached to our tanks to help keep them warm during cold temperatures and prevent them from freezing. Here we'll have our 12-volt water pump. This is what's going to pull the water from our fresh tank and supply it to our water fixtures in the event we don't have a city water connection. If our tank is empty, we want to make sure we cut that pump off. If we don't have any faucets or anything running, then it's best to turn that pump off if you hear it running constantly. It means you have a leak or something else wrong with the system. You can cause water damage. If you do have a leak and you still have it running, and you can also cause that pump to burn up. Here we have our water heater option. This is our 120 volt or 110 option for a heating element. We kick it on if we're hooked to shore power, want to use that option. If we want to use our LP, we kick that on, and our DSI fault right here, that direct spark igniter fault, would pop on for a second until that system lights, and then it will go off. Now, if we have a fault with that system, it will kick back on or never turn off, and we want to just first turn that system off, kick it back on, and see if that fixes the problem. You might have some air in the lines. Otherwise, turn the system off and have it checked out. Our main light switch right here, that's going to control our living room area. And then we have, of course, our entry light right above our door and our awning light outside. We have our slides in and out and our awning in and out right there. This slide out button right here will control our bedroom slide. We have our vent fan in our kitchen area. We can go ahead and kick that on. We have the vent open and close switch right there as well. All 12-volt operated options right here. So if we have any issues, we want to go to that 12-volt fuse panel that we'll show you here shortly. All right, in our kitchen area, just below our control center, we're going to see that GFCI protected outlet right here. This one is going to have that test and reset switch on here. All outlets in those wet locations, once again, GFCI, but you're only going to have a certain number of these, maybe 1 to 2 in your unit. Might have one in the bathroom, kitchen area, wherever. And we're going to see those 2 buttons. So as long as our lights are off, that everything should be working fine. We can see when we hit that test button, that orange light is going to be on. That means our system is faulted. Now it's going to be because either our outlets got wet or we have too many griddles, coffee pots, stuff like that plugged in and we overamped it. So once it trips, go back and reset that system by hitting that reset button. The lights will go off. Now, if this system won't reset, we want to go unplug any appliances that we have and check those outlets to make sure they're not wet. Then come over here and reset it. Plug those items in one at a time and maybe reduce 1 or 2 off of there. Down below our GFCI and our control center down at the bottom, we'll see all of our 110 breakers right here, all labeled so we know what they're operating, as well as our 12-volt fuses, once again labeled so we know what they operate. If we have an issue with any of our 110 items or our 12-volt components, we want to come here first and check those options to see if anything is tripped or blown on the fuses. Hooked to this also is going to be your converter system, which is generally located in the pass-through bay behind one of those wall panels. Now that is going to change 110 voltage when you're plugged into shore power to 12 volt, essentially making it a battery charger. So anytime you're plugged in, that is going to convert this voltage to this voltage and maintain that battery in the front compartment, which is why we need to have that disconnect on that we talked about earlier. All right, so here we have our hair refrigerator in our unit, and we have our screen right here. Pretty simple. We have several modes right here. We have to hold down that unlock button for 3 seconds for that system to unlock or lock. And once we do that, we have our options, our Sabbath mode. If we hold that down for a second, we'll have our SA pop up at the top letting us know it's gone into Sabbath mode, and that basically reduces the power usage on this unit. It's assuming that you're not going to go in and out of this unit, so it's going to not make that compressor work as hard. We use that when we are off grid, we're only using battery or solar power, so we can reduce the amount of power that is using. Once again, it's a 110 item, so you're having that inverter on, it's pulling off your batteries. So we use that, and we don't want to go open and close these freezers and fridges often. That way it doesn't have to work as hard to keep it cool. To turn that off, we hold that button down once again for 3 seconds. We'll see our options come back on for our temperatures, and we can go to our quick cool mode. That is going to drop our temperature down on our refrigerator and cool things off faster. And then we also have our quick freeze mode. We just click that on. We can have both of them run at the same time or one or the other. And then we also have our cool zone option, whether we want to do vegetable, beverage, meat, etc. Now, if we want to manually change our temperatures on our fridge or freezer, we just click those buttons right there at fridge as well as freezer on the words, and we can change those options. You should have a travel latch always on your refrigerator. That way that door doesn't swing open and your goods don't end up all over your unit. Now, you will have a freezer option in here. Some units will have ice trays in there. No matter what, when you turn your system off, you want to defrost all of those items properly. That way you don't end up with water all over the floor, damaging any wood components. Manufacturers don't participate in those kinds of repairs. All right, so we have our 3-burner Suburban stovetop right here. Above it, we have our microwave with the vent fan and a light. Remember, we have that vent on the outside wall. I want to make sure we open up whenever we use that vent fan so it'll actually exhaust out. Close it when we have storage. Kick on our light there so we have a little more light. We have our glass top here, give us regular counter space. We'll always want this down when we're traveling so that glass doesn't break. When we use that 3-burner stove, we go ahead and flip it up. We choose our designated burner that we want to use. Make sure, of course, our gas is on. We'll turn to that light option there, and we'll hit our igniter and have it ignite. Use it, turn it off. Of course, we see that red light turn on right there. That indicates that gas is being emitted out of one of those burners. We have a little light switch right here that can light up those lights. Push it down, it will also light up our oven. Now, important thing about gas is anytime we store our unit, we shut down the system, we turn our valves off on our tanks, we let it sit, we're going to end up having air in the system. In time we change out our tanks, same thing, we're going to have air in our system. So it's a good idea to come over to this stovetop and bleed the air out of here simply by doing what we did, light that burner top, let it run for 30 to 60 seconds till we have a nice crisp blue flame, and then we have more than likely got all the air out of the system that we can. And then we go operate things like our water heater, our furnace, stuff like that, and it will reduce opportunity for those to go into a fault mode if we bleed the air out first. Once again, you only have to do it when you first crack your tanks open. You won't have to do it every time. Now below this, of course, we have our oven down here. Our oven is going to work pretty similar. We're going to turn this knob to pilot on. Of course, we see a red indicator on, and we have to hold that button down. We hold it down, and then we're going to hold that ignite button, and that's going to light our pilot down at the bottom. We need to hold that pilot button down for 30 to 60 seconds, let that thermocouple warm up, and then we can let off of it and swap to whatever our temperature is that we want, and we should see that burner tube light up. Not too much to go over in our bunkhouse area. Of course, we have another vent in here that we can open and close, turn that fan on just like we have in our kitchen area. We have our JBL radio system that'll have 2 zones. Your A and your B. One will control your interior speakers and one will control your exterior speakers. In our bathroom area, of course, we do have another shower and toilet in here and more GFCI protected outlets as well as that back entrance. We'll go over more information on our shower and our toilet when we hit that front bathroom. Now you have 2 air conditioners on your unit, one in your bedroom, one in your living room. You're going to have a thermostat here in the hallway. That GE thermostat is controlling your living room air. In the front one, in our bedroom, that'll control that front air. This one is going to have the option for heat, so we'll run you through how that GE works. The bedroom is going to work the same way, just not with a heat option. This is our GE thermostat. We have several buttons right here. Our mode button, when you push it once, it's going to bring us to the fan mode. Now this will turn the fan on and let it run all the time. It will not cool your unit. It just circulates the air throughout it. If we hit our fan button down at the bottom, we can see it goes from a higher speed to a lower speed. Hit it one more time with those 2 dashes. That will bring that fan to the high speed. If we hit mode again, we will see our cool snowflake pop up there at the top. That lets us know that we are now in cool mode. On the right hand side, we can adjust our temperature to whatever we want. Now, if we are in the cool mode, we see auto right here. This will mean that the fan will turn off whenever the compressor turns off and turn on whenever the compressor turns on. much like your AC at home. Now, during the hot summer months, you're going to want to take it from auto and go regular into a fan mode on, generally in high. This will help keep the fins on that air conditioner dry in between cycles of the compressor, and this helps reduce the opportunity for that air conditioner to freeze up. So on any temperature over 90 degrees or so, I suggest leaving that fan in the on mode where it is running all the time. If we hit mode one more time, if we have a furnace hooked up to it, which is generally a gas appliance, it will go ahead and kick on, and once again we operate that temperature right here on the right. All right, here we are in our front bathroom. Of course, we have another GFCI in here with that resettable switch on here. It's going to work just like the one in our kitchen. We have our shower. Our shower has glass doors with a travel latch right here. We need to make sure we're using that during travel so that glass doesn't slide around and break. On our shower head, we do have a little on-off switch on here. That on-off switch is used when we are dry camping. We're trying to conserve the amount of water we're using out of our fresh tank and putting into our gray tank system. So it's just an easier way in between lathering up and showering off. We can kick it off right there so we don't have to worry about finding that sweet spot on our faucets or turning them off and on. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. Up to you, just an easier way to do it. And if you are on city water, then don't worry about it. And as long as you have that drain, of course, for your gray tank system, you don't have to worry about it. Over here we have our toilet system. So our toilet, that leads down to our black tank. Of course, we have two separate tank systems. We have that rear system for our rear bathroom and our front one. So that's two tanks we need to be concerned with flushing and using properly. Anytime we use this system, we're only putting those four things in it: our liquids, our solids, and our toilet paper and chemicals. Liquid, solids being number one and number two, right? When we use this system for number one, we just hit that pedal, flush it down the drain, it's done. Number two, we need to push down that pedal just a little bit and put water into this bowl about half to 3/4 of the way, so we have enough water to flush those solids down the drain and make sure we're not clogging up our pipes. We'll put our chemicals in here by just opening up that pedal, dropping it down the drain, and follow the instructions on those chemical bags as far as that's concerned. But that's pretty much it on this system. We do have a vent in here. It is suggested you open that vent, kick it on whenever you're taking a shower. That way we're getting any steamy hot air out of here and reducing the risk for mold and mildew in your bathroom. All right, and in our front bedroom, of course, we have that second AC system. Once again, GE thermostat controlled on its own. Both of them are going to have ceiling assemblies. Both of them are going to have this little vent right here. This is called a quick dump vent. If you want to cool this area off quickly, you just open that up and the air will just come out of here. And when we want to circulate through our ceiling ducts right here, we want to make sure that is turned off. Otherwise, the air is only coming out of here. You do have a filter right here. You'll pull those two tabs, pull it down. You want to clean that regularly so we're not restricting air to our AC. Over here, we're going to have that WineGuard gateway system. That is a upgrade 4G LTE option. If we want to subscribe to the network, we can have 4G LTE Wi-Fi wherever it is provided in areas. Wherever we go, if we don't want to do that, it can work as a Wi-Fi boost at campgrounds. If they have Wi-Fi, it will boost the signal to your camper. Over here we have our antenna and cable and satellite system right here. We're going to see a couple of ports. Auxiliary satellite, that is going to be if we have a satellite system we have set up outside, hooked up. That coax is going to go to our receiver, and then from our receiver we'll have HDMI to go to our TV that can be mounted right here. Now our second option says TV. That is going to be for cable and antenna. Next to it, you'll notice a little button right there to the left. When you push that button off and on, the little light will turn off and on, a little green light. When that light is on, that is our antenna booster. So if we're scanning for antenna channels, we want that light on so we can help pick up more channels. They come in clear. When we are scanning for cable channels from the campground, if we have cable, we want that light off so it doesn't scramble those cable channels. Now in our closet right here, we do have the option for upgrade for a washer dryer. You can see you have your plumbing as well as drainage in there, and you do have storage under your bed.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.